Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this late Wednesday night. As I'm sure many of you know, the Twitter Files Part 7 just dropped yesterday, providing more horrifically damning details of the collusion and coordination that existed between the FBI, deep state, and Twitter. We're going to look at 3 of the biggest bombshells to come out of that revelation and what they tell us about the rampant corruption at the highest levels of the FBI. According to journalist Michael Shellenberger, Twitter had become a veritable dumping ground for former FBI workers. Quote, as of 2020, there were so many former FBI employees, BU alumni, working at Twitter that they had created their own private Slack channel and a crib sheet to onboard new FBI arrivals. Apparently, that BU alumni was their own private Slack channel, Slack being an internal instant messaging service. And this is apparently a very noticeable pattern going on, and not just at Twitter. There are what appears to be nothing less than there's a revolving door between Democrat deep state operatives and big tech companies. And it's raising the larger question: what on earth is going on here? Why are we seeing so many deep state intelligence operatives getting employed at big tech companies? Again, this issue came to the fore recently with the revelation that a top FBI official fella by the name of Jim Baker, he was a former FBI lawyer working at Twitter. We found out not only did he push Twitter to bury the Hunter Biden story, but while he was at the FBI, it turns out he was behind the whole Trump-Russia Spygate fabrication. Well, to make matters even worse, he actually vetted the Twitter information from the internal documents and emails before they all got to Matt Taibbi in the very first Twitter files dump. So the first Twitter files that we read were in effect redacted. They were edited by precisely one of these former deep state FBI operatives, and one who was intimately involved in a hoax that tried to remove Trump from office. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And so this is why Mark Hemingway over The Federalist is openly asking if FBI and CIA agents are getting what he calls sheep dipped over at Twitter and other social media companies. Sheep dipping in the intelligence world describes a tactic whereby a member of the military is officially discharged from service only to end up doing covert work. So as it turns out, in secret, they're still eligible for rank promotions and military benefits. So he's asking, based on everything we're learning here, in terms of very strange, cozy relationship between the deep state and big tech, are FBI and CIA agents actively spying on us by virtue of sheep dipping? Technically, they're no longer part of these deep state agencies. But practically they still are, as they engage in covert operations. I mean, again, this is just insane. When did big tech become an extension of government intelligence agencies? Bombshell number 2, the FBI gave top secret clearance to Twitter executives. We now know that as early as July of 2020, the FBI was already giving out top secret security clearances for Twitter executives, to make them think they were getting authentic intelligence data regarding extensive misinformation campaigns by Russian sources, of which the Hunter Biden laptop was a part only. Of course, it turns out, it was all fabricated by the highest levels of the FBI. Officials were in possession of the Hunter Biden laptop for a year prior to the 2020 presidential election. They knew it was authentic. They knew it was going to be used by the Trump campaign to torpedo Biden. And so the FBI put together an elaborate plan to coordinate with social media to suppress the story, at least until the election was over. Now we have to ask, of course, the fundamental question to all that, which is, why the hell would the FBI do this? It's a question you might think the New York Times or CNN or Washington Post would be interested in. What didn't you hear? You have ironclad proof that the FBI coordinated an effort with Twitter to debunk a laptop they knew was authentic in the months leading up to a presidential election. And no one, quite literally, no one at any major legacy media outlet cares to ask why. Why would they do this? Well, of course, we all know the answer. We know the answer to both why the FBI orchestrated this fraud, and we know why the legacy media is covering it up. Before we get to bombshell number 1, your tax dollars. We're paying Twitter to censor, that's right. This is the biggest insult of them all. And Associated Jim Baker, that former FBI attorney, reported that the FBI paid Twitter over $3 million as part of their censorship activities. Elon Musk didn't mince words. Quote, government paid Twitter millions of dollars to censor info from the public, and not just to censor, but to flat out lie to disparage a laptop they knew was authentic. So our tax dollars were actively used to reimburse Twitter for the meetings that had with deep state operatives to coordinate how they were going to censor news that was damaging to Biden. The corrosive and corrupted thickness that permeates our major social institutions is beyond the pale, and Elon Musk continues to do an amazing service in exposing this patently absurd fraud of the deep state and big tech. So obviously, we'll be keeping very close eye on how things develop with the Twitter files. But with every dump, the corrupt collusion between the state and social media becomes more and more apparent. All the while trust in a complicit legacy media continues to implode. The question is, when are the people in masks to rise up and say enough? And finally, take our country back once and for all? Only time will tell. And then, this is some big news, Elon Musk will be stepping down as CEO of Twitter. The January 6th committee makes for criminal referrals against Trump to the Department of Justice. The CDC exposes some serious information about sickness in the United States, and the COVID lockdown protocol, and the FBI was just busted for regularly intimidating Twitter into doing what they want. Now, a supplemental report from Twitter Files was just released. The report detailed how FBI agent Elvis Chan requested Twitter to respond to a questionnaire. The questions asked were in response to Twitter claiming that they have not observed much official propaganda on the platform from foreign actors. The questionnaire seemed to accuse Twitter of failing to accurately track propaganda because it referenced other sources that indicated otherwise. Some commentators accused the FBI of trying to influence Twitter to change their opinion on how much propaganda was circulating during the election cycle. In response to the FBI's request, former head of Trust and Safety Yoel Roth stated, "I'm frank," which seems more like something we'd get from a congressional committee than from a bureau. Now, it went on to say how how the FBI was intimidating Twitter to doing what they want. But basically what they're saying right here is that the FBI wanted more propaganda circulating and they were irritated that Twitter wasn't allowing it, or that as much as they wanted wasn't being found on the platform. Republicans say that they will be doing a January 6th Light Committee of their own in order to ensure that the January 6th committee was not biased, and also to figure out what they believe is the truth. They are openly saying that the January 6th committee was revenge on Donald Trump and not about getting to the truth. Now, after spending a week in the Bahamas, Fox prison, former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried appears to have changed his mind about fighting extradition to the United States. The prison is notorious for being especially unclean and uncomfortable, so this may have played a role in his decision to come back to the States. If he does return to the States, he faces a total of 8 charges as soon as he lands, which would likely put him in prison for life. While Fried faces charges for defrauding customers. He also may face charges for illegally making donations to political people without disclosing who he was. Basically, he tried to anonymously bypass campaign finance laws. Now the Department of Justice is set to make a decision soon on whether or not to charge former President Donald Trump. The January 6th committee says they will make for criminal referrals against Trump to the Department of Justice, and the DOJ will have to decide whether to pursue those or not. The 4 charges are the following: the conspiracy to defraud the United States, obstruction of an official proceeding, conspiracy to make a false statement, and inciting, assisting, or aiding in comforting an insurrection against the country. Now, former Vice President Mike Pence, who's not a big fan of Donald Trump, has in some way come to his defense. He had this to say: "I hope that the Justice Department understands the magnitude, the very idea of indicting a former president of the United States. I think this would be terribly divisive in the country at a time when the American people want to see us heal. At this time of year, we're all thinking about the most important things in our lives, our faith, our family, and my hope is the Department of Justice will think very carefully with how they proceed with that regard. So I'll continue to update you on what the Department of Justice does now that the January 6th committee is disbanding and I'm making these for criminal referrals." Elon Musk may be stepping down as CEO of Twitter. He ran a poll asking his followers if he should be head of Twitter and stated that he will abide by the results. Close to 18 million people voted in total. 57% said they want Musk to step down. Elon later stated, "Be careful what you wish for, you might get what you might as you might get it. If Musk can find a good CEO, he will turn Twitter over to the new CEO and then move back to spending more of his time on Tesla and less on Twitter. So it's on him to go out and find the CEO that he wants for his company." Now, speaking of Musk, Tesla and new CEOs, the world seems to be pushing full steam ahead with the electrification of our planet with cars, solar, and batteries. Not long ago, I told you about Tierlab, a Canadian mining group with a major focus on battery technology, lithium mining in the future. Tierlab has announced several positive improvements to their company that I wanted to let you know about. You can find them on most major trading platforms under the ticker symbol TELHF or the Canadian ticker TEA. They are the same, but depending on which platform you buy from. Now, did you know that according to the International Energy Association, we need 50 new lithium mines, 60 new nickel mines, and 17 more cobalt mines by the year 2030 just to keep up with the current demand, not even future demand. So the search for these metals and minerals is also moving full steam ahead. Since telling you about Tierlab, they have grown and made lots of positive improvements to their company. Recently, they acquired a new mine adjacent to Frontier Lithium, one of the largest lithium miners in Canada, so we know there's lithium in the region. The team also added a new CEO by the name of Morgan Lek Strim, who was the senior director for Rio Tinto's mine in Mongolia Oyu Tolgoi GI, which is one of the largest copper mines in the entire world. So he has served as a major mining director under Rio Tinto. He has also been the CEO of a uranium company and a silver mining company. So he has a vast wealth of knowledge when it comes to extraction and mining around the globe. Lastly, the group has privately raised $7.5 million. Based on these good news updates in order to fund exploration of their mines, also to acquire new assets that would benefit the company and all investors in the company. Now, according to McKinsey & Company, the demand for lithium is through the roof and will only increase as time goes by. Gracefully, Tierlab already has many projects in the works to keep up with this demand. Now, one of the biggest issues facing the planet right now isn't renewable or sustainable energy but storage of newly created energy. So this is where battery technology and energy storage will make TER look like a genius down the road. Now, as of right now, all of their mines are in North America within different regions of Canada. And although I don't always agree with the Canadian government, they are pro-energy and pro-energy production. With lithium being called the new white gold. This isn't just about Americans making a gold rush to America over to California. Every developed nation on the planet is looking for lithium, and Tierlab plans to be one of the largest providers of lithium in North America. Also, your big three improvements to the company, which is for the benefit of all investors that decide to invest in your company. Now again, you can find them on all major trading platforms under ticker symbol TLHF or on the Canadian exchange under TEA. Now the world is keeping a close eye on Belarus, which is a European state that may join Russia in the war against Ukraine. Ukraine, every day, is just getting hammered with missile attacks from Vladimir Putin. Now the tension is mounting as Vladimir Putin is expected to have a rare in-person meeting with the president of Belarus. Previously, Belarus joined Russia in military drills right on the border of North Ukraine. Belarus has maintained that they are not going to war with Russia unless Ukraine makes a move on them. But now many are starting to speculate. What are you guys doing? Why are you meeting in person? So I'll continue to keep you updated on that as well. Now a new wave of strep A has been sweeping through the United States, and the CDC, or the Center for Disease Control, is now saying masking, lockdowns, and school closures may have done the opposite of what we were all told. People may actually have a lower immune system to fighting off this aggressive strain of strep A because they weren't around sick people. They were wearing masks that didn't block the virus, but did affect their lungs. And the children were away from their schoolmates, which builds your immunity over time. So now, isn't that something, right? That science is now saying the opposite, that it might be the lockdowns keeping away from sick people and wearing masks too often that is making people sick or unable to fight this because our immune systems are down. Unbelievable. Maybe Dr. Fauci was right when he originally told Americans at the beginning of the pandemic that masks didn't work, and it wouldn't help you. But because of pressure, he flip-flopped on that and everybody was left wearing masks for 2 years. So hopefully, focus on boosting your immune system, just in case you get this Streptococcus strain in your life. The Biden administration has just outlined their plan to fight homelessness in the United States. Biden stated, "My plan offers a roadmap for not only getting people into housing but also ensuring that they have access to support services and income that allow them to thrive. It is a plan that is grounded in the best evidence and aim to improve equity and strengthen collaboration at all levels." The Biden administration interviewed 500 people that have directly experienced homelessness to better understand the realistic situation that Americans find themselves in so that they can cut homelessness by 25% by the year 2025. So hopefully, they're able to do something. I know that housing is really expensive right now, and that is leading to a lot of homelessness. Sadly, the fastest demographic of people becoming homeless are older Americans that maybe don't have the opportunity to go back to work. And it seems as though Donald Trump is back. I think a lot of people can finally see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I got for you guys though.